When Confucius finished the Spring and Autumn Annals, he wrote 5 characters for one event: the Duke of Zheng defeated Duan at Yen. No dialogue. No inner life. Like a judge's verdict, cold, short, hard. 2 centuries later, Zuo Qiuming unfolded the same affair: how mother and son fell out, how the younger brother fortified a city, how the elder brother waited, and how he finally closed the net. One event grew from 5 characters to thousands. People breathed. Choices had a price. Later, when Chinese readers studied the Spring and Autumn era, they rarely stopped at those few lines in the annals. They walked into the scene with the Zuo Tradition. This book is like a live broadcast from 2,500 years ago. The camera runs with envoys, turns with armies, and stays for the last sentence spoken at a banquet. Good evening. This is Bedside Book Voice. Tonight we're reading the Zuo Tradition. If you are already lying down, dim the lamp a little. Put the phone farther away. Pull the blanket up. The Zuo Tradition is vast, from the first year of Duke Zheng to the 27th year of Duke Ai, more than 240 years of war, alliances, coups, and diplomacy, packed tight. But you do not need to memorize dates or finish the whole book tonight. Just follow the voice, hear a few stories, and feel how the 4 words ritual collapse and music ruined crack open in human choices. Our reading list calls this book a live broadcast of ritual breaking down, a chronicle of the Spring and Autumn era. We'll follow that, no greed, just listening. Fall asleep halfway? Chong'er, Zikan, and Gojian will not mind. Neither will I. Let me just set the rules first: nothing to memorize, nothing you must fully grasp, no notes. What you take away are a few images that stick: Duke Zheng of Zheng digging a tunnel to see his mother, Chong'er before the Qi army asking who plans for the meat-eaters, Chong'er eating bitterness through 19 years of exile, Duke Duan of Jin retreating 3 days' march before the Battle of Qingpu, Duke Xiang of Song waiting until the enemy had formed ranks before fighting. Together these images form the memory bank Chinese culture reaches for when it says spring and autumn. As for why those opening 5 characters could grow into a whole book that stays beside your pillow until halfway through tonight, when we return to it. First, meet the book. Tradition names the author Zuo Qiuming, said to be a student of Confucius, or perhaps a contemporary. Scholars still dispute his life, and we need not settle that tonight. What we can say, the Zuo Tradition was not originally a separate title but a commentary, a Zhuan, on the Spring and Autumn Annals. Confucius edited the annals, the chronicle of Lu, year by year, line by line, extremely spare. Zuo Qiuming expanded each year's entry into narrative, producing the Zuo Spring and Autumn, shortened to the Zuo Tradition. When you read it, you often check the annals. The annals say the Duke of Zheng defeated Duan at Yen. The Zuo Tradition gives the whole family tragedy. The annals say the Qi army attacked us. The Zuo Tradition gives the Battle of Changsha. Like title and body, outline and spoken draft. Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian also learned from the Zuo Tradition: more dialogue, finer scenes, people who stand on their feet. In his letter to Renan he mentions Zuo Qiuming, blinded because of the spring and autumn yet still writing in fury. Read Honggate or the Farewellity River in the records, then look back at the Zuo Tradition. You will often find the source. Historians record not only outcomes but how people spoke, hesitated, and narrowed their own road. The Zuo Tradition took shape around the early Warring States period, or slightly before. The language is already mature. Nearly 200,000 characters, far thicker than the annals. It records not only Lu but, from Lu's angle, the feudal states: Zhang, Qi, Jin, Shu, Qin, Song, Wei, Kai, Xia, Zhen, Su, like a net whose mesh is years and whose threads are people. You need not memorize all of them, just feel that reading the Zuo Tradition is reading how people lived inside rules and how they stretched those rules until they split. That is the live feeling of ritual collapse and music ruined. Ritual was the Zhou system of enfeoffment, rank, and ceremony. Music was the order and harmony paired with ritual. By the Spring and Autumn period the Zhou Son of Heaven existed in name more than in power. Lords ruled themselves. Ritual still lived in speech, but affairs had already changed. The Zuo Tradition writes the sound of that widening crack. Listen with eyes closed, no need to memorize concepts first. Just feel, in one age some still kept ritual, some already hunted for gaps, some used ritual as shield, some as blade. Next is one of the most famous family dramas in the book. The Duke of Zheng defeated Duan at Yan. Duke Zhuang's mother Lady Wu Jiang favored her younger son Gongshu Duan and wanted him to replace his brother. Duan fortified the capital at Jing, expanded territory, gathered troops. Minister Jai Zhong said, "Duan acts unlike a subject, what will you do, my lord?" The duke said, "Lasting wrongdoing destroys itself." Listen with eyes closed and you feel Zhuang's waiting, not that he could not strike, but that he waited until wrongdoing was fully shown. Duan crossed the line. Zhuang marched, Duan fled and died at Yan. Mother and son had broken over Duan. Zhuang placed his mother at Chong'er and swore, "Until we meet below the Yellow Springs, we shall not see each other." Later Ing Kaoshu offered food and moved him by feeling. Zhuang dug a tunnel and met his mother inside. The Zuo Tradition writes this finely. The duke entered and recited, within the great tunnel, what joy, what warmth. The lady came out and recited outside the tunnel, what ease, what release. Reconciliation like theater, and like truth. Reading here you ask, was Zhuang filial or ruthless? Politician or son? The Zuo Tradition chooses no side, it writes the whole process. This chapter later gave us lasting wrongdoing destroys itself and digging a tunnel to see one's mother. If you lie awake thinking about favoritism and power in a family, this page is enough for a long night. Early spring and autumn Zhang was not large, yet often in the headlines, close to the Zhou house, on the crossroads, stories naturally gathered. Beyond Zhang, she has a passage you may know. Chao Gui discusses warfare. The Qi army attacked Lu. Duke Zhuang of Lu wanted battle. Chao Gui requested audience and asked, "On what grounds do we fight?" The duke said he shared clothes and food. Chao Gui said small favors do not reach everyone, no. The duke said he sacrificed without cheating. Chao Gui said small sincerity does not win trust from spirits, no. At last the duke said, in small and great lawsuits, though I can't see everything, I judge by heart. Chao Gui said, then we may fight. At Changsha the Qi army was defeated. Chao Gui would not allow a rash pursuit. He looked at wool tracks, mounted the chariot rail and looked far, said, now, and they chased. The Zuo Tradition writes this short and hard, like a war correspondent, first test the people's trust, then the rhythm of battle. The meat-eaters are crude and can't plan far, that later became a proverb, those high up sometimes see less clearly. You need not treat it as a military manual. Remember one thing, whether you can fight depends first on whether those below believe you. Qi in the Spring and Autumn also has a longer thread, Duke Huan of Qi and Guanzhong. Guanzhong had served Prince Jiao and shot Duke Huan's belthook, nearly killing him. After Huan took the throne, Bao Shia urged, if you want hegemony, you can't do without Guanzhong. Huan set aside old hatred and made Guan chief minister. The Zuo Tradition does not tell this in one chapter, it scatters across years. Piece together you feel, hegemony is not only knowing how to fight but knowing how to use the man who once tried to kill you. A hard lesson in spring and autumn politics. Duke Huan's 9 alliances and one ordering of the realm were the high point of hegemony. At the meeting of Kuaiqiu, the Zhou king sent an official with sacrificial meat, surface ritual, underneath an admission. The Son of Heaven needed strong lords to hold the stage. Read here and you feel ritual collapse does not mean no one spoke of ritual, it means ritual's use changed, from restraining the strong to decorating their power. After Guanzhong died, she fell into turmoil. Huan's old age was lonely. The Zuo Tradition does not make him a perfect sage, it keeps both merit and fault. Lu is the home field of both the Annals and the Zuo Tradition. Jiyu, the Ji clan, the 3 Huan families holding power. Confucius edited the Spring and Autumn Annals, said to set the age right, yet often passes in a line and hides judgment between characters. The Zuo Tradition writes in detail the pull between Jipingzi, Yanghu, the Three Huan, and the ducal house. Read Lu and you feel, great states are not always stable, small ones not always chaotic, disorder often starts at home. Zhang had Duan, Lu had the Three Huan, both models of household and state tangled together. Next is one of the longest personal exile lines in the Spring and Autumn, Duke One of Jin, Chong'er. Son of Duke Xian of Jin, he fled with brothers after the Li Ji turmoil. The Zuo Tradition gives 19 years, through Chao, Wei, Qi, Chu cold shoulders and courtesy both. Duke Gong of Chao was rude, staring at his joined ribs. King Qing of Chu treated him well and asked, "If you gain Jin, how will you repay me?" Chong'er answered, "If by your spirit I return to Jin, I shall be friendly with your descendants, not your enemy. I'll retreat 3 days' march, 3 times 3, if I can't face you, I'll surrender." That promise later came due at Chengpu. Read The Exile and you feel, momentum is not built in a day, endurance is not trained in a day. On the road he tasted Chao's contempt and Chu's courtesy, in Di, in Qi, in Xin, each stop taught him, today's humiliation may be tomorrow's leverage. Jie Jitue cut flesh from his thigh to feed his lord, later sought no office, went into the mountains with his mother. Duke Wen burned the hills to force him out, Jie died embracing a tree. Legend colors the tale, but the Zuo Tradition writes Jitue hid at Mianshang with his mother, when enclosed Mianshang as a fief, keeping both righteousness and regret. After Chong'er became Duke Wan, he rescued the Zhou house and defeated Chu at Qingpu, one of the 5 hegemons. Listen with eyes closed and ask, did the age make the hero, or did exile grind the person? The Zuo Tradition leans toward the second, people grow in choices. In those 19 years Chong'er also met a small episode. In Di he married Jiwei, someone urged him to seize power in the chaos. He said, "I am in flight, marrying in Di is not greed, it is waiting for the time." Read that line and you feel he was not waiting for luck but for a scene where title and timing both aligned. After enthronement he rewarded merit but forgot Jie Jitue, burned the hills, regret too late. The Zuo Tradition often pairs merit with forgetting, not teaching sainthood, only showing consequences. The Battle of Qingpu was a famous scene. Jin and Chu clashed, Ziyu led the Chu army, Duke Wen retreated 3 days' march, not from fear but to keep his word and lure the enemy. Sima Ziyu said, "A straight army is strong, a bent one is weary, does it depend on how long?" Chu grew arrogant, Jin struck, Chu fell hard. The Zuo Tradition writes talk and formation, Duke Wen both keeping faith and plotting. Read this alongside Duke Xiang of Song and you feel 2 kinds of righteousness, retreat with strategy, versus waiting for the enemy to form ranks with stubbornness. After Qingpu, Jin and Chu contested for years. At Bai, Jin lost to Chu, some generals wanted retreat, others still fought, the scene messy and real. You need not memorize every battle, just feel. Hegemony is not secured by one victory but by organizing the next step between win and loss. The Zuo Tradition loves writing how momentum shifts, first drum fills courage, second fades, third exhausts, from Chao Gui, almost a metronome for later battle writing. Next is a battle many readers of the Spring and Autumn can't avoid, the Battle of Hong. Duke Xiang of Song fought Chu at Hong. Before Chu had fully crossed the river, the marshal said, "Strike now." The Duke said, "No." When crossing was incomplete, again, "Strike." Again, "Not yet." After crossing, before ranks formed, again, "Strike." Again, "Not yet." Only after they had formed did he attack. Song was crushed, the Duke wounded in the thigh. Later generations laughed at Duke Xiang's stiffness, yet the Zuo Tradition writes his words whole. A gentleman does not wound twice, does not capture the gray-haired, does not drum until ranks are set. He believed in the Zhou ritual way war should still look like war. But the age had changed, Chu would not wait. Read Hong Water, not only to laugh, but to ask, when rules remain and the world has turned, how far should one still hold? The Zuo Tradition writes no essay, only the defeat. Duke Xiang later died of wounds, the book does not reduce him to a joke, it sets choice beside consequence. Qin also appears often in the Spring and Autumn. Duke Mu wanted a surprise attack on Zheng, Jin Shu and Bailey. She warned, an army weary from distance can't reach its aim. Mu would not listen, 3 armies marched east. The Zheng merchant Xian Gao met the Qin army on the road and feigned orders to reward them. Qin thought Zheng was ready, destroyed Hua, and turned back. Yuan Jin of Jin said, Qin defied Jin Shu, greedy and cruel, heaven gives me Qin to punish. At Shao, Qin was wiped out, 3 generals captured. Mu met them in plain dress and said, my fault, not the ministers. Read, hear and feel, greedy haste versus retreat, 3 marches, 2 rhythms, the Zuo tradition loves such pairs. Duke Mu later still hegemonized the Western Rome, the book does not kill him for one defeat. Passages of employing men, admitting error, and rising again tell you, in history defeat is sometimes the foreshadow of the next rise. Read Qin, not only shall, but also, even the strong miscalculate, after miscalculation, whether they admit it decides whether they stay at the table. Another piece good before sleep, Zhu Jiwu persuades Qin to withdraw. Zhang was besieged by Jin and Qin. Zhu Jiwu visited Duke Mu of Qin by night and said, to hold a state far beyond your borders, you know how hard that is. Why destroy Zhang to enrich a neighbor? If the neighbor grows thick, you grow thin. Mu was persuaded, allied with Zheng, withdrew. One mouth bought a nation's breath. Read Zhu Jiwu not only for eloquence but for this, small states in the crack sometimes need not a blade but one sentence that clears the accounts. Before Zhu appeared, the Earl of Zheng said, I did not employ you early, now in crisis I seek you, my fault. That regret of knowing a person only when desperate appears often in the Zuo tradition. Lying awake replaying the day, you know the feeling people often remember who fits only when need arrives. Zheng's reprieve rested not on the Earl's apology but on Zhu Jiwu sorting the ledger between Qin and Jin. In the mid and late spring and autumn, Jin was center stage. The Zuo tradition writes Jin, the ministerial clans, Zhao Dun, Zhao Chuan, and Dong Hu. Duke Ling was vicious, Zhao Dun remonstrated again and again, the Duke sent Chuan'ai to assassinate him, Chuan'ai dashed his head against a tree and died. The detail is quiet, the assassin could not bear it. Dong Hu wrote Zhao Dun murdered his lord, Zhao Dun said, not so, I did not cross the border. Dong Hu said, you are chief minister, you fled but did not cross the border, returned but did not punish the killer, if not you, then who? That is Dong Hu's straight brush, historians dare write, powerful men dare accept it. Read, hear and feel the Zuo tradition is not only war but the hard bone of how history gets written. The seat of the orphan of Zhao appears here too. Later opera, another story. The 6 ministerial families of Jin grew until the 3 families divided Jin, that is later still, but the root lies in year-by-year writing of strong ministers and weak dukes. Listen long enough and you feel how the crack widened bit by bit. Beyond Zhao Dun are names like Shi Hui, Luan Shu, Fan Xuanzi, ministerial houses taking turns at the table. You need not memorize genealogies, just feel when the ducal house hollows and the great clans become like states. Ritual collapse lives not in slogans but in appointments. Jibo attacked Zhao and flooded Jinyang, later Han, Zhao, and Wei turned and killed him. Sima Chen wrote it in the records, root still traceable in the Zuo tradition's year-by-year Jin politics with many gates. Zhang was small, yet one man receives much ink, Zikan. As prime minister he cast the penal cauldron, inscribed the law for all to see. Old nobles said, if punishment is unknown, authority can't be measured. Zikan said, I mean to save the age, not seek fame. Listen with eyes closed, small state wisdom is sometimes more urgent than large state wisdom because you can't afford to lose. Zikan also practiced diplomacy with Jin and Chu, finding breath for Zheng in the crack. The book does not make him perfect, practical, accountable. When Zikan died, the people of Zheng mourned as if for parents, the warmest portrait of a worthy minister in the Zuo tradition. Lying awake wondering what law on a cauldron means, you are really asking whether rules can be seen and compared. Zikan offered visible order. She has a story of a short man, Yan Ing. As envoy to Chu, they led him through a dog gate and said, "Chi men use the dog gate." Yanning replied, "Envoys to dog states enter by dog gates." Chu changed the route. They set traps, Chi men steal, Yanning is unworthy, he answered without stumbling. Wit in diplomatic language, backbone in a small state's envoy. The Zuo tradition also writes him serving 3 reigns in Qi, frugal and steady. Read Yanzi, not only the Chu mission, remember in a weak state mouth and trust sometimes outweigh the blade. Chu was the southern hegemon. King Zhuang asked about the weight of the Zhou cauldron's ambition and symbol, can the Zhou house still hold? One Sun Man answered, if virtue is bright, even small is heavy, if wicked and confused, even large is light. That pulls the cauldron from object back to virtue. The Zuo tradition also writes Yang Yuji's single arrow, Shen Baoshu weeping 7 days until Qin saved Chu. Read Chu and feel, southern force was not only in arms but in asking where legitimacy comes from. King Zhuang also has the story of breaking the hat tassel. At a night feast wind blew out candles, someone pulled a beauty's robe, the king secretly cut his tassel and ordered no alarm, afterward he did not pursue. Later fiction elaborates, the Zuo tradition may not record it word for word, but the tension between controlling men and saving face runs through Chu chapters. Sun Shuao governed Chu, Zinang left remonstrance in his corpse, you need not memorize every name, just feel Chu practiced its own kingcraft, not only war. The Wu struggle at the end of the spring and autumn is not skipped. King Helu of Wu attacked Yu, lost at Zueli, died of a foot wound. His son Fuchai trained troops 3 years, attacked Yu, besieged Gojian at Kuaiji. Gojian sued for peace, humble words and rich gifts, went to serve Wu as subject. The Zuo tradition writes Gojian, body worn thin, mind burned, he placed gall beside his seat, tasted it sitting and lying and eating. Later age is summarized as sleeping on brushwood and tasting gall, the original is more concrete, putting bitterness into daily life, day by day. Fuchai let Gojian return, Wu Zishu remonstrated in vain, if you can be destroyed and is not, it will become disaster. Fuchai sought fame in the central states and slighted the southeast, a typical Zuo tradition blindness with momentum before the eyes. Read Wuyue, not only revenge fantasy, remember if winners can't withdraw, hatred left as seed sprouts where it should not. Later Gojian turned and destroyed Wu. Read here alongside Chong'er and you feel spring and autumn success is often endured, not shouted. Fuchai won but did not guard, Gojian lost but did not quit. Read side by side like watching 2 kinds of momentum turn. The Zuo tradition pleads for no one, it marks the turning point. Family floated on the 5 lakes after success, when Zheng ignored advice and was killed. Another lesson after the story, at peak momentum, one must also know how to withdraw. The Zuo tradition's method deserves listening with eyes closed. It loves dialogue at banquets, before battle lines, in court, sentence after sentence, rank, killing intent, face, all there. It loves detail, where will tracks chaotic, did banners fall, how did envoys enter and withdraw. It uses the gentleman says to judge, but not every passage, and never finally chooses your side. Lu Zhiji Shirton says Zuo Qiuming excels at narrating the past, reasoning in prose, spare in wording, rich in event. Hear it as story and judgment enters without notice. This narrative later shaped the records and popular fiction. Many familiar scenes root here. Even proverbs you may use come from this book. Lasting wrong destroys itself, meat-eaters are crude, retreat 3 marches, first drum fills courage, second fades, third exhausts, orders may be refused, lips and teeth cold when cheeks are gone, familiarity attaches as you listen. These phrases are not for exams, they already live in daily speech. Here first drum fills courage and think Changshao, here retreat 3 marches and think Chong'er's promise to King Cheng of Chu. Classics live in language, that is why a book like the Zuo tradition still lives beside the pillow, not only in libraries but in sentences you speak without thinking. Listening with eyes closed you may ask, in the Zuo tradition, is ritual saving or binding? Duke Zheng digging a tunnel to see his mother is ritual, Duke Xiang waiting for ranks is ritual. One survived, one lost. Zicken cast law into bronze, ritual written as claws, Dong whose straight brush ritual questioning power. No standard answer. The book is like an old person laying out 200 years of trials for you to weigh at night. Those 4 words ritual collapse and music ruined are not a curse but a long photograph of the scene. Collapse is slow cracking, ruin is some still repairing while some already walk away. Don't simplify to the old ages over old rules still live in language while new wrists have grown, 2 forces tug on the human body. Another detail many listeners miss: women in the Zuo tradition. Wen Jiang, Mu Jiang, Xiaji names often tangled with politics. Not sensationalism but spring and autumn reality, marriage as alliance, kin as chip. You need not judge by modern standards, just feel people choosing inside a very tight net. The tighter the net, the harder the story. The book often needs only a few strokes to straighten a line: who changed alliance by marriage, who raised arms from private grudge. The story of Wen Jiang with Duke Huan of Lu and Duke Zheng of Qi is one of the tangled threads of the age. You need not sort the genealogy tonight, just feel when household and state share one bloodline, private feeling becomes diplomacy. The Zuo tradition writes such disorder without sensationalism, only full consequence: who was killed, who changed alliance, who carried blame. Read here and you understand ritual collapse is sometimes not an abstract word but concrete people in concrete relations pushing rules until they split. Diplomacy occupies much of the Zuo tradition. Alliances, visits, marriage, hostages, all politics. Read the armistice alliances, read the meeting at Huangqi, and feel war is not the only way to settle things. Mouth and ritual also serve. Yet behind the mouth is still force, behind ritual is still momentum. The book writes both layers without pretending otherwise. Thinking of workplace pleasantries by day, you sometimes find distant ancestors here, pretty speech, calculation underneath. Another story you may know as proverb but read whole only in the Zuo tradition: chariot cheek by cheek, lips cold when cheeks are gone. Duke Xian of Jin wanted passage through you to attack Guo. Gong Jiqi warned the lord of you with that image of neighbor states. You refused to listen, Jin destroyed Guo and then you. Such small stories are often extremely short yet write the price of short sight clearly. You need not memorize maps, just feel some choices look like gain at the time and like tearing your own wall later. The tale of 2 peaches killing 3 warriors comes from Yan Ying and Duke Jing of Qi's plot against 3 champions. Later fiction elaborates. The Zuo tradition may not record it verbatim, but the spring and autumn art of removing force by scheme appears often. Reading the Zuo tradition, get used to 3 layers for one event: classic text, commentary, later romance. Tonight we take the commentary as main thread and treat romance as echo, not mixing them. Confucius lived in Lu. The Zuo tradition often has Master Kong sayings, such as lasting wrong destroys itself, why not act early? Some Confucius says were added later. You need not verify each, just feel the Zuo tradition and Confucian classics interpenetrating. Many who read one later read the other. Ritual collapse is sorrow in Confucian eyes, material in historians' eyes, both sites woven into narrative. The Zhou royal house in the Zuo tradition is often not protagonist but backdrop. The king's envoy asking for chariots, whether to invite royal troops to alliances, these details say title remains while strength is scattered. Duke Zhuang of Zheng exchanged hostages with the Zhou king, unthinkable early, recorded calmly. Read such passages and feel collapse is sometimes not thunder but one document, one audience that never comes again. If this is your first meeting with the Zuo tradition, I suggest entering by story, not by year. Pick names you already half know: Chong'er, Zicken, Gojin, Yanning. Ask while reading, if I cut this passage, would spring and autumn still make sense? Often you find the book writes not only an event but a situation, and when the situation is right, people 2,000 years later still feel the ache. Go further and learn mutual reflection. One event shows a corner in different chapters, pieced together, complete, like a large puzzle. If you are still awake, a small favor: if something tonight moved you, leave a like and subscribe to Bedside Book Voice. No need to comment now, tea tomorrow, remember then. We'll open the window a little wider and hear a few more names you may want back when you turn pages later. The Zuo tradition has limits, we should say so plainly. A book 2,000 years old carries the frame of its age in stance, material, and cause. Some records disagree with archaeology or other sources. Modern historiography must cross-check. Whether one man named Zuo Qiuming wrote it all is still debated. We respect the narrative and keep a reader's distance. Separate legend from fact where you can, where you can't, listen to method and historical view. Some dialogues may be reconstructed backward from outcomes, some numbers may be rhetorical. Reading an old book is like talking with an elder, trust experience, keep judgment. The relation between annals and Zuo tradition also has textual questions. Which came first, classic or commentary? Scholars differ. No need for papers tonight, just feel what we read is a text long polished by tradition, not a recording dropped one day from the sky. Modern archaeology and excavated manuscripts sometimes support the Zuo tradition, sometimes challenge it. Place names, personal names, institutional details may not match bamboo slips, scholars revise. As a bedtime listener, you need not chase every news item, keep a gentle clarity that old books also update how we read them. Respect the book, do not blindly believe, love the story, do not treat it as today's live stream, that is a tender distance for reading the Zuo tradition. If you ask whether tonight is enough, it is not. 241 years, 30 minutes only opens a window. But once open, you will know which door to enter. Family and power, read the Duke of Zheng and Duan. People's hearts and war, read Chong'er. Exile and hegemony, read Chong'er. Rules in the age, read Duke Zheng of Song. Small state wisdom, read Zikan and Zhu Jiwu. Endurance and revenge, read Gojian. Historian's brush, read Donghu. Diplomacy and calculation, read Gong Jiqi and Yening. Zuo Qiuming, or the historians behind the name, built this frame in nearly 200,000 characters. Later Sima Qian and Sima Guang continued in different forms. Last time we read the records and saw how Sima Qian brought people alive. The records also say Zuo Qiuming was blinded for the spring and autumn yet still wrote the discourses of the states. Read the two together and you see more clearly how history grew from verdict to story. Before that, Confucius edited the annals with subtle judgment. After, Bangu and Fan Yi each wrote one dynasty. The Zuo tradition stands in the middle, a bridge from spare to rich, from chronology to person. A little more on how to read, lest you think this book is only story. Treat the Zuo tradition as a plot library read by person or theme, not necessarily by year. Want endurance? Find Chong'er and Gojian. Want straight brush? Find Donghu and Yening. Want strategy? Find Chengpu and Zhu Jiwu. Ask one question: if I cut this, do I still understand spring and autumn? Often you find not only an event but a situation, and when the situation is right, people 2,000 years later still ache. If you have the spring and autumn text nearby, try one method: read one line in the classic, then find the matching chapter in the commentary, like unwrapping a gift. The classic is the knot, the commentary is the whole woven piece below. You need not do this for the whole book, 3 or 5 places are enough, and you will feel Confucius's cold editing besides Zuo Qiuming's fine expansion, two historians' brushes together making what later ages called the spring and autumn method. Tonight hearing only the commentary is enough, comparing with the classic another day adds depth. The Zuo tradition is often paired with the discourses of the states. Legend says Zuo Qiuming wrote both, different jobs, commentary attached to classic, discourses by state. You need not open the discourses tonight, just know for the spring and autumn era the Zuo tradition is a narrative backbone. Later the comprehensive mirror in chronicle form still returns to the Zuo tradition for spring and autumn detail. If you read the mirror someday, people you met in the Zuo tradition reappear on another timetable, like old friends in a new room. The language of the Zuo tradition also rewards listening with eyes closed. It loves 4-character phrases in parallel rhythm, yet not the florid prose of later ages. Like music playing, like wind running, that is rhythm, though great punishment applies, one can't say so, that is judgment. You need not study classical grammar, just feel good historical prose, like good spoken audio, has breath and pause. Lu Xia's literary mind says Zuo Qiuming is lush yet rich. Lush is not cosmetics but color staying on the event, not floating. One last note, why is the era called Spring and Autumn? One theory, Lu's chronicle, 1 slip per year, spring and autumn slips most used, hence the name. Another, praise and blame harsh as spring and autumn, severe as winter and summer. No need to settle, feel the name itself carries how later readers approach it. The Zuo tradition adds flesh to that chronicle, turning a 5-character event into a 5,000-character choice. That closes the opening loop. From verdict to story, Zuo Qiuming, or those historians, preserved the scene for us. Second to last paragraph, lighten the voice. You need not become a historian or memorize every feudal lord tonight. Just remember, ritual collapse and music ruin did not happen in one night. Human choice often sits between rule and survival. The value of history is sometimes not who won but whether the process was written whole. Zuo Qiuming's narrative warmed the cold spring and autumn annals a little. You heard only a corner tonight, yet enough to keep beside the pillow for a long while. Leave it there. Sleep, the rest can wait for another day with the book open. If you are still awake, leave a comment. Who stayed with you tonight, Chong'er, Zikan, or Duke Zheng of Song? Subscribe and tap the bell so you do not miss the next episode. Next we may read the strategies of the warring states, how persuaders in a more shattered age traded one mouth for one city or one pool. From ritual collapse in the Zuo tradition to profit-seeking in the strategies, the decades between change how people speak. Read the two together and you see more clearly how an age changes its face. The Zuo tradition is large, the spring and autumn world was large. Tonight you need only remember a few images: warm joy inside the tunnel, 3 drums at Changsha, 3 marches retreat at Qingpu, waiting at home while the enemy had not crossed, Zhu Zhiwu telling Duke Mu of Qin, if the neighbor grows thick you grow thin. These images are signposts Chinese readers still turn back to when reading history. If someday you open the original again, one scene may suddenly pull you into the Duke of Zheng at the tunnel mouth with what joy, what warmth, or Dong who's setting brush to bamboo. The power of classics is often not reading once but years later, some night, remembering one line that says what you could not say by day. May you sleep with these images. If one remains tomorrow morning, the book has left its mark beside your pillow. This is Bedside Book Voice. Good night, see you in the pages.